I'm going to share a story with you today. It is a real life story. So this happened more than 100 years ago. And what I want you to hear as you're listening to this, now you can close your eyes and envision yourself in this story. Now, I don't want you to envision yourself in 18, whatever year it was. I forget, 63, I think. I don't want you to envision yourself in 1863 in the middle of a battle in Gettysburg. What I want you to do is I want you to hear this story from your perspective and where you are today. And how does this story relate to you? I think of this story often whenever I'm faced with a decision that scares me, and I know I need to make a decision in order to move forward, and yet I'm stuck in fear. I'm paralyzed. And I can relate to this. I want you to relate to this. And then at the end, we're going to share our thoughts, ahas, and here we go. All right, so there comes a time in every person's life when a decision is required. And that decision, should you make it, will have a far-reaching effect on generations yet unborn. There's a thin thread that weaves only from you to hundreds of thousands of lives. Your example, your actions, and yes, even one decision can literally change the world. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, yeah, I don't buy it, John. Me? I'm just an ordinary person. What am I going to do to change the world? Well, you know, I shared on Facebook today that my buddy, my lifelong friend, dragged me out on a night in June 1990 to go to this little bar on Treasure Island. I didn't want to go. Beach nuts. I didn't want to. He dragged me there. He said, "You're going, get dressed, we're going." And it was at that bar that I met Monica, and 31 years later, we're married. Colin's here, Lacey's here, Christy is in our family now, and we have this beautiful grandson, Braden, all because of one decision that a person made. That was Perry dragging me out. I didn't want to go. He changed my world. All right, so it's July 2nd, 1863. It was a hot, humid day, and a school teacher from Maine was in the fight of his life. Have you ever been in the fight of your life? Have you ever felt like you're in the fight of your life? I have. I am. And if you haven't been, you will be. His name was Joshua Lawrence Chamberlain, formerly a professor of rhetoric for Bowdoin College, presently a 34-year-old colonel in the Union Army. The place is Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. After 5 bloody attacks from the rebels, Chamberlain realized his troops would not be able to hold them off any longer. More than half of his regiment was dead, and many of his remaining soldiers were wounded. He was outnumbered by better than 5 to 1. Glancing downhill and seeing the attackers readying themselves for a final assault, looking at what seemed to be certain defeat. Can you relate to that? I can. Certain death. Chamberlain's own offers counseled retreat, give up, run the other way. They outnumber us, the men cried, and we have nothing with which to fight. It is hopeless. It is hopeless. Have you ever felt hopeless? I have. Joshua Chamberlain stood quietly for a moment. Here they come, a sergeant said urgently. Chamberlain didn't respond. He was calculating the cost of freezing. Are you calculating the cost of not making a change, of freezing, remaining, staying where he was? The cost, he determined, was essentially the same as running away. Chamberlain knew that he had not been put on this earth to fail. You have not been put on this earth to fail. Neither have I. The cost, he determined, but failure is the only possible result of a life that accepts the status quo. If your eyes aren't closed, if you're taking notes, write that down. Failure is the only result of a life that accepts the status quo. We move forward or we die. Fix bayonets. Oh my gosh. Can you imagine? You're on that rock wall facing certain death. Everything in you is telling you to run the other direction, and your leader tells you to fix bayonets. Can you imagine being in that group of soldiers and what you would have thought? I can. I would have thought, what? You're nuts. Fix bayonets? Why the heck are we going to do that? That's what he told them to do. And his men looked at him as if he was crazy. There we go. I got it out. They're coming, came a yell from down the line. Fix bayonets, I said, and charge. And his men scrambled to fasten their steels. Chamberlain drew his sword and jumped on top of the wall. With the enemy now a little more than 50 yards away, he pointed his sword at them and screamed, charge, charge. And the fighting men of the 20th Maine Regiment, the pride of the Army of the Potomac, poured over the wall and followed a school teacher into history. Wow. The Confederate troops, upon seeing the leader of the opposition mount that wall, immediately stopped, unsure as to what was happening. But when Chamberlain pointed his sword toward them and commanded his men to charge, they literally turned and ran. When you face the enemy with charge, the enemy will run from you. In less than 10 minutes, the ragged group of the men under Chamberlain's command, without any ammunition at this point, captured the entire regiment of the 15th Alabama and 47th Alabama, more than 400 men. It all happened because one man made a decision to charge. And one decision that you make can literally change the world. Okay, so that was a great story. But you're telling me I can change the world. Come on. You say, even Joshua Chamberlain changed the outcome of only one small part of one battle. Consider this. It is an accepted fact that at the time of the Battle of Gettysburg, the North, the Union, was losing badly. Had the South been victorious at Gettysburg, historians agree that the entire conflict would have been over by the end of the summer. The Confederate States of America were one victory away from winning the war, but they didn't win. This one man turned the tide of the battle. Joshua Lawrence Chamberlain turned the tide of the war. Do you understand what this means? If the South had won the war, there would be no America as we know it today. But because one ordinary man made a decision to move forward, there is a very different world we live in today. The world as it exists today is largely the result of a decision to charge. One decision made by a school teacher more than 100 years ago. Don't you ever think that you can't change things. You can. One decision that you make can change the world. It is a fact that people follow a man or a woman who simply says, follow me. Follow me. By taking leadership, ironically, a person deserves leadership. As you lead others to success and a life of their dreams, the life you seek and deserve will be revealed to you. So historians would tell you that had the South won the war, the United States would not actually be two countries, the North and the South. It would probably be more likely 13 different countries. It would be very much like Europe. And if that's true, then in World War II, when Hitler marched across Europe and there was another battle going on in the Pacific, there would not have been a United States to stand in the gap. Everything that the United States does to help other countries would not happen. The United States is the United States because of one person, Joshua Lawrence Chamberlain, and because of one decision, charge. When faced with adversity and you have an option to either freeze in fear, run the other direction, or charge, which decision will you make? You know, it's a question that I ask myself daily. It's a question that I asked myself for more than 2 years, as it took me 2 years to make a decision to charge versus freezing in fear, doing what was safe, or running the other way. What will you do? What can you do? Whose life can you change today by the actions you choose to make? It's the butterfly effect. The whole idea behind the butterfly effect is a butterfly flaps her wings on the coast of Africa and sets forth molecules that become a hurricane that hits the east coast of the United States. Now, whether you believe in this concept or not, the fact that all of us have an opportunity to make a change and affect the world for good, to make an impact on other people's lives, who will have an impact on other people's lives, who will have an impact on other people's lives. There are children who have not been born yet that will be affected by the decisions you make today. Are you stuck in fear? Are you resisting a change that you know you need to make because the current path is safe? You know, as a real estate agent, trainer, and coach and recruiter, I talk to real estate agents daily, and I hear all of their excuses for not making changes that they know they need to make in order to get to better. In order to get to better, we have to get to different. Well, I don't want to get to different. It's uncomfortable. It's scary. Get that. I've been there. I am there. But here's one thing that I know. God didn't put me here to fail. And I have a vision of what the world looks like when I'm chasing my dreams. And I'm not facing an enemy with guns and swords and cannons, but I'm just like you, facing real life fear. What are you going to do? If I said, follow me, what would you do? All right, talk to me.
Hey, John, Zach.
Yes, hi, Zach.
So if I could just add something to the story, which is an amazing story. But so I was a Marine Corps infantryman. And so if you get something that's called a hasty ambush, if the enemy attacks you and takes you by surprise within a certain distance, the doctrine is to turn and charge. It's to take the jump out from them and to take whatever resolve they may have had and turn it around. Like you literally turn that direction, scream and run. And I got to tell you, that's something I apply in my life. And, you know, if indecisiveness kills all these good things, if you're faced with that, people are inspired by someone that says, all right, here it is, let's go, you know? So love the story. Great thing. And if you can apply it to your life, I hope you do.
Zach, thank you for sharing that. Thank you for all that you have done. You know, it's so common for us when we meet somebody who is a veteran, they're served in the military, to say, thank you for your service. I mean, it's just response. And that's okay. And I don't know if it's enough. Zach, you and I have had this conversation offline. The price our military pays to protect us is just unimaginable. Scream and run. I love that. Write it down. Turn, scream, and run towards the fight. I love that. All right. Who's next?
John, it reminds me of a saying, that story. Eric here.
Hi, Eric.
You know, fear knocked at the door, faith answered, no one was there.
Mm-hmm.
So when you face fears,
Love that.
faith, fear goes away.
Love that. Thank you, Eric, for sharing that. I appreciate it. All right, so the story comes from The Traveler's Gift. I've recommended that book to all of you many times, and until every single one of you buys that book and reads it, I guess I'm going to keep recommending it. I've read it more than 40 times. There you go, Eric. It had literally changed my life. It really did. Please get a copy and read that book. And couple housekeeping things. I can probably hit stop record. Hold on one second.